Greetings, I am Lion.
And I am Scandal.
And let's play a game together.
With a completely an asshole together.
Let's find out why you don't have a boyfriend yet together. All right. Hands up, because none of us can see each other, so this is a great one. Hands up if you don't have a boyfriend. All right, for any of you who did or didn't raise your hand, that was a completely wonderful thing. It makes me so happy to ask for physical actions when no one can see anyone. It's just deeply charming to me. I don't know why. In the same way that, again, like we do, we point to the subscribe button, or, you could comment or whatever.
Right.
And we wave at you and we say goodbye sometimes. It's just, we just can't help it.
I didn't. It's just ingrained. It's a social behavior. I need to perform it. All right, just like this. Why don't you think you don't have a boyfriend yet? Oh my God, Sayori.
That's super mean.
No, honey, it's just the tea. Would you like the tea poured scaldingly down your front? Because, oh my God. Sorry, but you will thank me later. You will.
If you pour the tea down my front, I will look even more disheveled.
Yeah, well, honey, you can't get more disheveled than what you are.
You are so mean.
You're over in the corner.
Whoa.
The spice is real. Natsuki, I knew it.
Clearly they will be dating, because that is what heteronormative attraction looks like.
Natsuki.
All right.
Why do you think I like yaoi?
Oh my God, there we go, go ahead.
All right, physical invasion, here we go. I start to button her blazer from the bottom because OMG, check out her poor lines. They're just awful. It was designed to be buttoned up. Thank you, that is just how it works. Once you see how much better it looks, you will change your mind. You will.
We're also
it's totally happen.
Her reaches up, starts buttoning the under blouse so that, you don't get the buttons in place before she can finish it.
I don't think they go up that far.
I'm not sure how high they
I think that just goes here, which is wild because, okay, so in regards to how the outer blazer buttoning up, I would have been basically taught, and socially how I've been taught is that if the buttons only go that high, the emphasis then is very much on the chest.
Yes.
Like you'd be like, whoa, because normally if you're going to have it button, it would flatten everything out if it went all the way up the lapels.
It creates more of a smoother line.
Yes.
But from what I've seen on the other girls, it can button all the way up if they're a uniform.
Right, which is what you would imagine, but I'm not seeing that because you would think you would see, because see how far out those
lapels
you
are?
Can't see what I'm pointing at, guys. Sorry.
We're talking about the lapels.
We're talking about the
buttonhole
lapels
side.
Yeah, but how far they come out versus how large the buttonholes are.
Yeah.
You would imagine you could see the buttonholes under the lapels, so
Let
it looks
alone
like
that you could see the buttons.
Right? Well, that's what messed me up. I'm like, I think.
All right, so this is
Sayori's
very standard, like heteronormative, like dude dating behavior in these games.
Yeah.
And I just say in these games as well as in some like romance fiction and fantasy.
Though
of going, you just touch the girl and fix things. You just touch the girl and do stuff. And it's very like that, or you have the option to be very like that in My Nurse Girlfriend as well. Of just going, should I invade her space and just do it to her? Or should I not? Not should I ever ask or engage or, basically anything like that. Have a shared process.
Right? And it's not like the character will do it on their own without me anyway.
It also falls in the Freshman Fantasies one where it's like, your new boyfriend Ben is just like, I will just wipe stuff off your face. I will just move your hair. I will just do it for you.
It's really strange and really is truly just like, what is wrong with people going that men are always physically invasive? Like, this idea of what men are is really toxic to me.
So I have to say that every time I've played a male character in a fictional story or a role-playing game, there has always been, and we're talking, pen and paper, D&D, that kind of thing, or, homebrew.
Right.
There's always been this experience of if they're trying to engage with someone physically, there is this level of specifically eye contact and then a clear communication of what their body language is doing, and then I will fluster you.
Right.
Not just I'm just going to get in your space and do stuff. There's still that communication there even when they're being invasive.
Right.
It's still more of a direct power move than this just, I'll just do things and treat you sort of like an object.
But I think that's really interesting that is considered, more or less, at least based off of our experiences, that is considered to be a masculine behavior. It really is, regardless of whether or not I'm not slightly asking for consent or not. I'm still more or less implying, still with my attitude and the way that I approach you, even in what sounds like my friends' games, or even when we both played them with each other, of just going like, there is still this level of going, I'm going to do it to you anyway. It really kind of doesn't matter, and you go, oh, okay, well, I'll be overwhelmed.
But there's a level of communication that happens, And in these games, it really is just I'm just going to reach in and do it.
Yes.
So we'll change our mind, apparently.
You'll change your mind.
They show this.
Whoa.
Are those your shoes? They look a lot like socks.
They kind of do.
Forgive me, those shoes look a lot like socks.
Also, I'm like, that angle is wild. Plus, also the fact that I'm like...
Splat, you are tall.
Yes.
You are tall. Like, whoa. Also, I do wonder where the other girls are while this is going on.
Right.
For sure. Because there are 3 other girls in this room that are all in earshot for this entire thing. And they should also be in, like, essentially visual range as well.
Right.
And so, yeah, this is definitely trying to say something.
Right. I'm also just kind of like, the fact, like, her shirt truly is, like, unbuttoned, and it's just poorly buttoned, which is...
See, the way the hands are with Splat, it's definitely, I'm buttoning your blazer all the way up to here, which wasn't congruous with the illustration. Yeah. Which I will, honestly, I will do a minor gripe about that, because I really, really like it when the illustrations and the story match up, even with, especially words to pictures. Mm-hmm. Like, it adds so much more punch for me. Or when basically you don't illustrate the things you're not going to match up. Like if it's very surreal or dreamier things, you just don't put the things in there at all that you're talking about.
Right.
And I'm just like referencing like Sandman stuff or those comics like Lucifer or whatever where they've done things more abstract.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so this is definitely narrating something, but I am not sure what it is. She does have a nose now though.
Hey, a tiny boink nose.
It's okay. Men hate nostrils. No nostrils. This is so funny.
What is? Oh my god, please stop squirming. I am trying to get this done.
Oh, well, I was just thinking how weird it is to have a friend who does these kinds of things. You know how I said that you push into the rest of my life and you clean things for me.
Is this a call out?
Reorganize things for me.
Oh my god.
And you just do everything your way in my life, and it's sort of always all about you unless I really, really speak up a lot. And then sometimes it's all about you anyway.
I wonder if this is a call out. That would be amazing. Like being like the level of basically entitlement that your reader or presumed main character reader experience is so high. And having characters that specifically go, this is strange, is really nice actually, because it is strange. You guys, you really shouldn't be, in my experience, really when you think about it, you go like, I'm going to go to another world in an isekai of some form, right? Like Mark Twain or something like that, where, he did a Connecticut Yankee and
or your various anime, or even when you have like just your Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
It's true.
It's there.
Yeah. Of this thing of just where it's really weird and it's really unusual to actually there's so much focus on the main character.
The main character. And suddenly the whole world sort of revolves around is interacting with you. And there is a level in books of what I've talked about before and in stories that it's even worse. And I say worse loosely, like it's stronger. It's much stronger, more amplified in romance usually. But in books with a protagonist, a lot of times, especially in my experience, if those books are written for women, there's a really strong emphasis on your main character has maximum value prospect.
Yes.
And is the focus / center of the world. Now, they're supposed to be making that character interesting, so you want to keep reading the book and you can invest, hopefully, or care about that character. But there's different ways to write and frame things in a literary fashion versus, hey, these are these things that are happening in my life that are important to me, versus the world seems to revolve around what you're doing.
Yes.
And especially in the games where we have done dating games, the male characters, whether they are, in this case, as the game is framing it, the protag, or whether they are the love interest, do seem to always be having their own experience and enacting it upon you. We've even called out the Arcana pretty hard on this, where it's like our love interest, is having your very own experience by yourself, and sort of we're just being swept along with it, not really included as a person at all. And so this feels like a direct, aware call out to that, and I like that.
Yeah, which is interesting because she doesn't look really all that excited in that way at all. And the fact that she's like, it's not even like the whole, I don't know, there's something about it to read to me where this is not the same as other ones where they'd be like, oh no. She's really like, this is really kind of weird, and she does look literally uncomfortable.
Well, and the language feels very deliberate. Like, that sort of thing of going, we know what this trope is.
Yes.
And this is the subversion, which I'm willing to believe that for now.
What? Oh my god. Don't say that. I would do this for literally anyone. You make me feel weird about it. Baka. Like, baka yaro desu ne.
Ugh.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
like,
Splat is an asshole.
Splat is kind of an asshole.
You did a good job. You called this one in the first line. Amazing. Well
I'm
done.
so good. I deserve it.
I love her eyelashes, though. They're very cute. Like the line weight and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very pretty.
I just feel really bad for Sayori.
Oh, I feel terrible for Sayori. Whoa. It's okay, though. I am happy we're like this.
With the most awkward fucking face you can come up with.
You're meddling all the time in all of my stuff. I at least know that you're not leaving me.
What? What the fuck are you talking about?
Aren't you?
I get.
Caretaking for you is so appealing.
I love caretaking. It is totally the thing I wanted to do with my time. In fact, when I got out of school, my whole plan was to be anywhere except around you. Oh my god!
Hey, be careful. The button might come off.
Why is this one so hard to close?
Teddy's, Splat. It's Teddy's.
Either that or
Teddy's. It must be the Teddy's.
Are we gonna call out the costume details? I struggled to fully close the button near her chest. Oh my god! Is it just one of those things? Also, maybe I wonder if there's some level of implication of going, we don't like Sayori because, number one, Sayori has potentially, gained a lot of weight. She's still being framed as cute. But the character, the reason why your main character doesn't like her is because you're supposed to secretly start getting it on the idea that she's gotten more chubby. Because she's become more depressed and won't clean things and she won't take care of herself.
And she's not as active.
Because they're tying, of course, overeating or basically sleeping too much or depression basically to weight.
There could be some of that, or it could be a level of sexual maturity of going, I stopped buttoning my blazer because it made my breasts really obvious because I've developed recently.
Right.
So that's one that I've actually known girls where they'll start changing their wardrobe once they started getting a chest without really even making any note of it to anyone else, and sometimes not even realizing exactly what they're doing, except they're trying to hide their chest.
Yeah.
So if there's a uniform, they just change it in minor ways that they can, either if they can get a larger size or just not buttoning it so it's not so tight.
See, I imagine, based off of what I remember people not wanting to talk about it because you're I still need to fit my clothes because if I go for anything bigger,
I can't change my clothes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the big one is just going, you have to do it with your same wardrobe, but you're ashamed or embarrassed of showing off your chest. I think I'm going to go more with that direction, but I like that there's possibles for either way of basically, but yeah.
Or multiple directions.
I think this is more about tits. That's going to be my guess.
Yeah, probably. Does this thing even fit you properly? Which is another thing also to consider is that she basically started changing and is going, but I'm trying to withdraw from everything else.
And I can't go ask for a new uniform. That'd be shameful and embarrassing.
Yep, and then I'm having to own up literally. See, that's the one thing I think is really, sometimes very frustrating where some people are just I can't just go apply for different clothes because my body is starting to change and now everybody has to know and weird adults have to know about something that I'm not comfortable about because I never was discussed with, very, in depth in a way that I felt comfortable with. Nobody ever really approached me. My sex education wasn't very good. My body, my body shaming is probably pretty high.
I would say there's that, but also even with adults, when I worked in the manufacturing job that I mentioned previously, there was this, we wore uniforms. It's the only job that I've ever worn a uniform in. It was a much more formal company than I've been used to working for. I thought it was great though. Uniforms were the coolest thing ever, and I would totally take a uniform job again. For me, it was massively convenient. I loved it. But the thing was we took people's measurements when they got hired. Part of the hiring process was to measure them for a uniform, and the level of embarrassment of people and the shame and curling in on themselves when you took a waist measurement, when you took a height, a leg length or an inseam measurement kind of thing, or a shoulder measurement to find out what size shirt they were in. There was a lot of that. And then if anyone had to change their uniform and it wasn't to a smaller size, there was a huge level of sort of shame and embarrassment and resistance to do so. And that was one of the things that I actually paid attention to in my employees was if their uniform got too big, because it was a hard labor job, so sometimes people would lose weight there. I was going to say, it was always you needed to encourage them to get a smaller size so that you couldn't get it caught in the machinery, walk it on it or anything like that.
Yeah.
That was very important. But it was harder to approach socially if their uniform was getting too small because there's so much shame associated with it. And go, look, just order a bigger size and be more comfortable. And there were a few people, they were like, it is so hard to get into my uniform, in the girls' locker room especially. It just takes me so much time and it's so tight. And I go, why don't you order a bigger size? And there's just this immediate amount of just discomfort and curling in. I go, because it's comfortable and make your job easier. It makes you faster, more efficient, and then you don't focus on the body. You pull it on of the usefulness of the uniform.
Right.
And it helps a lot of people. They can put it somewhere else.
So much caretaking for so many people who have been taught to hate themselves so much. Yeah, I remember actually sometimes though having that problem, at least for me, because you know, socially speaking, for me, a lot of times the emphasis has been like, you're supposed to have more of a waist. So the more, when we were actually, because we both worked at the same facility, was basically that as I lost my waist, because I had more and more basically muscle built up, I started getting embarrassed in a way that I couldn't describe, because I was like, yes, I'm getting beefy and strong. Yes. But then I was like, but then I'm not supposed, that I'm losing this thing that I was also taught was super valuable. And it was kind of frustrating, and I couldn't decide. So I was having this weird gender experience of going, hang on, I didn't think I really cared that much, and now I run up against it and I go, oh, I cared a lot.
I'm still attached to this thing. Anyway, all right, so
does it even fit you properly?
It did when I bought it.
Oh my God, Sayori, if you ever buttoned it, you would have noticed sooner that it doesn't fit you anymore. Why are you such a disaster? It's just the worst thing ever. What are you smiling about?
I must have just, I guess, gotten bigger since, you know, I bought it. It means my boobs got bigger again. That awkward smile. Of, I don't know, I don't want to cry, so I will kind of smile.
Don't say that out loud. Oh my God, how could you just talk about your body if it's not just like this amorphous mass, okay?
Like mine.
Like mine. I just don't understand why people just have to bring attention to things. Like, oh my God, why would you ever need to discuss shit like that? It's not like it's a part of your life or anything where it changes your clothing style or anything.
Or your anatomy is important.
Anyway, oh my God, you look so much better now, so... Does it feel strange to see Sayori's blazer buttoned up like that?
But it's so stuffy. It's not worth it at all.
Oh my God, girl, please. Sayori hastily unbuttons her blazer once more. Oh my God. I'm like, is she poor? Is there a reason, like also of a reason?
I worked 3 extra jobs because my parents died
I
a couple
know.
of years
I'm
ago,
talking about the context of the story.
Of the canon, yes.
Yes.
She might be. I don't know. But again, it can also be that thing of if she's ashamed to replace her clothes because she doesn't want her body to be changing. She's having sort of an experience, some sort of dysphoria experience. So one of the things that I've noticed in a lot of teens, just knowing them when I was a teen and knowing teens now, especially amongst my young relatives, there's an experience of going, as your body changes, it feels sometimes completely out of your control.
Yeah.
And even if it's something you're supposed to embrace, you've been socialized to embrace of going, yes, you've got either a womanly build or you're getting more masculine or whatever it is that, you know, your parents or your social group are directing you towards.
I've been socializing you, yeah.
Whatever social experience you're having, there can be a level of going, but I felt like I knew me, and now things are just changing, and I don't know me. I've always felt like part of the puberty experience, that whole thing of, you just get the plague for a couple of years, and there's this huge hormonal dump and this and that. I've always felt like it wasn't as much hormonal experience as people think it is, as much as it's sort of a social and physical dysphoria of I don't know where I belong anymore between adult and child, and also going, I don't know what my body is anymore.
Right.
If you're really invested in your physical experience and the value thereof, or the sort of ramifications thereof.
Right. There was also, I think, that level of frustration, because I remember when I was a kid, because also like my parents got in on it too, of just being like, once you basically start either reaching a certain size or have a certain figure, you also have this weird level of expectation that just starts popping up. Like I remember my dad, for example, when I would sit around at the dinner table, would be like, don't sit like that.
Don't lean your chest on the table, it's bad.
But without trying to really say that. And I was just kind of like, what? I've always done this though. You know, kind of thing. And I never necessarily had an attachment to my body in that way, but I like, as far as I remember, but it was just like, when I think about it, it was like there were so many other people that were super invested in suddenly being like, you're not allowed to do that. This is this specific thing. You can't walk like that. You can't do that. Like I remember hanging out with somebody who was, I think, a couple years older than I was at the time. I think I was like 14 and they were like 16 or 17. And we were just kind of walking, and they were like, hey, what do you think of this kind of walk? And she started walking, basically doing the model walk.
The sort of squishy sachet thing.
And my dad was behind us.
Okay.
And my dad got really uncomfortable, and both of us thought it was hilarious, but also sort of silly, of just he's like, that thing's really inappropriate kind of thing. I find that walk to be, really kind of inappropriate. I never really thought much about it. I just thought it was weird. And then I realized being like, so much of this stuff where people are usually sometimes just playing around, trying to understand something, you have no context for what it means socially to some people, because it doesn't mean that thing to everyone. Some people are like, this is just how women walk. This is just how girls walk.
This is how a femme woman walks.
And it was a weird eye-opener, and I've had several of those weird little moments where you just kind of go, you really do feel really policed in your own experience of just like, I'm just playing with this body that I don't know anything about, and no one will give me context. They just say, stop doing that. You can't do that. No. The answer is no. You must stop whatever you're doing. And you're going, but why won't anyone just talk to me about it rather than just yelling no? Because it doesn't explain anything.
It doesn't, and it doesn't help you. And so when I was in college, I took a human sexuality class, and one of the psych classes I took, it was very interesting, but it would be super dated now, like massively dated now. I was just only a few years ago, just because the field has advanced so fast.
Right.
More like that.
I'm teasing.
So I was like, nope, 537 years ago, I took a human sexuality class. They barely knew what sex was back then. No.
You know what they lost? We found it in that class.
I would say, but what made the class challenging for me was that the teacher was super awkward about the subject matter. Like, the teacher was sitting there reading about, the technical names for, your gonads and for your genitals and stuff, and was just really awkward about it. And then when trying to discuss sexual behaviors or sexual deviances or variations or relationship behaviors around sex, like, he just seemed massively uncomfortable with the whole thing. And even when he gave the class exercises to explore or understand their own sexual preconceptions, just like massively, like, we don't need to read these out loud, we don't need to share these, just think on that for yourself. And I was like, why are you teaching this class? But it made me think of a lot of the parents that I've ever met that said no, basically, of just going where they just say no or just don't do that. It's, I'm too uncomfortable to cover this subject matter, or I don't even know why I'm uncomfortable and I'm too uncomfortable. So it's not only that I'm too uncomfortable to cover it, I might not be equipped at all to cover it, and I'm uncomfortable. So there's a level of people need education, they need to be equipped with language, and they need to be able to be equipped with essentially introspection, so that they know how to recognize when they're feeling uncomfortable and why. And especially like for building your own boundaries and understanding of the world, let alone teaching other people about theirs.
Right.
And that's been one of my major frustrations as first a child, and then with my, the people I know who are children and other children I've met and seen, or like in my daycare jobs and stuff like that, has been an experience of going, you will tell your kid not to do this thing, but you will never tell them why. Or you will tell your kid not to do this thing after a certain period. Like, I would see a ton of toddlers dressed in these teeny little short skirts that are super cute, and they have shorts underneath them or whatever, because they're covering the diaper.
Right.
And then as soon as they get to a certain age where their parents start to think of them as a girl rather than a baby, it's, you can't wear that anymore.
Yeah.
And there's no context for, now that means something different because I think of you as being in a different category. It's just the thing you were always used to wearing, you can't wear anymore because.
Yeah.
And I think that's basically what you were driving at, is there's just things are allowed here and they're not allowed here, and there's no connection as to why.
Yep, and nobody wants to talk about it because they also go, well, adults aren't supposed to talk about the fact that that makes them think of those things and kids are involved, and you're going, we've been socialized to do that, we should probably approach it more, because in that way then you stop being in the dark about it and you go, hang on, if I can, as a rational person, recognize the thing that I've been socialized to see is this thing, I can make a decision to unsee it, basically, and go, I will not respond to that.
Or
you can also, really, like, that's the thing is it's very interesting about human beings. We really can make choices and decisions, but if you take away the choice to begin with, how are you ever supposed to be able to grow up or develop or change? People always make the assumption that adults are way older than they are, which I think is hilarious. Way more mature.
And it all falls back to like work and management and stuff with going, you need to give employees context if you want them to be, equipped and empowered, because they need to know the variables in reference to the choices they're making. Otherwise, they have no idea what to do if anything ever shifts.
Yeah.
I say, but there's also the response of adults looking at a child and going, I feel like someone else will think this.
Yes.
And that's
I must preemptively protect you.
Yes, I must protect you because I have been taught that this is something that will make you vulnerable.
And also something that you will never be able to interact with. I can't empower you to talk to other adults about it, or create your own boundaries,
or have agency.
Have agency for your own choices or anything like that. It's very frustrating.
All right, guys. Well, we won't see Sayori in a different, and more tidy outfit because she has corrected what Splat has enacted. But in the next one, we will see the result of that.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you very much for joining us. If you like what we do, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe.
Yes.
And please also feel free to go check out our Ko-Fi or Patreon. We got some links in the description down below. Also, if you would like to assist, no pressure though, please feel free to also share our videos. If you're having a good time, you want to start a conversation with somebody, you want to point something out, or just, laugh with somebody.
Absolutely.
Other than that though, I have been Scandal.
And I have been Lies.
And it was great playing with you.
Bye!